not only the State of the Union great, the State of Dark Brandon is great. What a definitely a fun night to be on the good side, as they say. I'm gonna take this a different angle, John. I'm gonna put myself in the group with the people who I think it's not that I'm underestimating Biden. I just think maybe I lower. It's not that I lower my standards. It's somehow still kind of surprising that he's that good, and not because he's not capable. I just think, when you're president, you try not to um, throw shots. You try not to do things. You try not to ruffle feathers. But Biden's not really scared of that. And when he pulled that little maneuver with Medicaid and all that stuff, that was remarkable to me. I sent you that tweet of guys like, did he just negotiate to keep that during the State of the Union? It was the biggest gift that Republicans could have gave him because now they're backed into a corner, and that was just remarkable. And that's not planned, John. I think I heard a podcast from some of the Obama guys who were talking about the State of the Union, and I think Biden and Jen Psaki was talking about it. Biden puts those things in. He made he made it more of a conversation than a speech, and he expected a little bit pushback. But you don't plan those moments. You don't necessarily plan exactly what you're going to say when that happens. And to have MTG call him a liar and have Mike Lee throw a fit for him, Biden calling out Republicans for what it was, and for him to pit maneuver and kind of put him in a corner was remarkable. I thought he was good. He it was everything he talked about was pretty standard. It wasn't like last time was the Ukraine stuff, and it was a little bit different. This time was more domestic than anything. But just that pit maneuver he made for Social Security and everything like that was remarkable. That was kind of my biggest takeaway.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll go back to what I've been saying before, and it goes back to my frustration with the people who wonder, should he not run for reelection? He's too old. Um, First and foremost, for people his age, he's probably in a top percentile as relates to both physical and mental acuity. He still gets things wrong. He still trips over certain things, but at the end of the day, he's got judgment. And I'm not sure what you or someone else was saying when you think about like his mental acuity. What happened at the State of the Union is a perfect example that he's there because, to your point about the Social Security and everything else, if he's not sharp, if he couldn't pull off what he pulled off on Tuesday night. He was aware of what was going on, very aware. He was paying attention to the room. He saw them walk right into it, and he was able to clown them. And that's not an 80-year-old brain. That's maybe a 50-something-year-old brain or 60-year-old something brain. So as people are going ahead and really trying to play up his age, first and foremost, people are living longer. Secondly, Biden is very active. He's riding a bike. Remember, Trump and everyone else makes fun of him for falling off a bike. Trump couldn't even get on a bike, right? So you think about his physical activity, you think about how much he's being stimulated. I think that State of the Union showed that he's got what it takes. Now, granted, he may run out of gas. I have a friend who's going through chemotherapy, and we were in a meeting the other night, and she was kicking ass. And at some point in time during the meeting, she said, "You know what? I'm fading." But before she faded, she was one of the strongest people out there, right? So I say that all to say that um, what he did, and we'll get into the State of the Union, but his overall performance should lay to rest people who think that he's not ready. Now, granted, at his age, all it takes is one or two bad episodes, and this time next year, he might not be as sharp. He might not be. There's all sorts of things that can happen. But let's be honest, and I don't want to be morbid or anything else. John Fetterman's a good 30 years younger than him, and he's still in the hospital. He was not feeling well. Well, hopefully by the time this airs on Monday, he'll be out. But he fell ill on Wednesday night, and as of Friday, he was still in the hospital. So I think playing up the age element is ridiculous. But let's talk about just that maneuver, as you said, the pit maneuver. For those of you who watched it or didn't watch it, essentially he went to the Republican threats that we know that came from Rick Scott, that came from many Republicans, and about cutting Social Security and Medicaid. And Biden got them in the corner, and they booed him, and they said, "No, we were not going to cut it." And he said, "No, there's members of your party. I'm not saying everybody." And he basically got the entire Republican Party, including Kevin McCarthy, to stand and applaud. And those of you who are watching know Kevin McCarthy was afraid to stand all night. And I'll tell you, he was afraid. I believe he was afraid to stand because he was afraid that if he stood and applauded too many times, he would no longer be speaker. So that's my, as you do the overall overreaching thing. There's a lot to talk about with the meat of the State of the Union, but that's kind of my overall impression of how Biden performed.